because you're talking about $1.5 roughly billion worth of foreign military aid given to Egypt every year by the U.S. government. That buys you stability. That buys you a cold peace, and I think that's exactly what the Israeli government buys you a cold peace, and I think that's exactly what the Israeli government is hoping will come out of these protests.
Yeah, I mentioned Ehud Barak yesterday, giving an almost confident spin to how people feel there in Jerusalem, saying, well, it's up to the Egyptian people to decide their own future. I mean, that really, as I said, is putting a spin on quite a lot of concern. There's a great deal of worry there in Jerusalem.
And let's not forget that democracy is in the eye of the beholder here. We had free and fair elections in Gaza in which Hamas won a vast majority in that election and can take a large portion of the government that will take shape at some point in Egypt. There are editorials that are popping out already in Israeli newspapers. I can read you a headline right now: justified jitters. Certainly people are concerned about how the election will turn out, if there are any free and fair elections down the line in Egypt, because of course the U.S. and Israel always preach democracy, but it's the result that they don't necessarily like. We saw that in Gaza. The question is, will we see that in Egypt? If the Muslim Brotherhood ends up playing will we see that in Egypt? If the Muslim Brotherhood ends up playing a major role in this government, will Israel react in any major shape or form?
Cal, many thanks. Jazeera's Cal Perry reporting live there from Jerusalem, and Cal was talking in 30 hours GMT. That noise continues. That party in Tahrir Square, indeed right across the country right now in Egypt. Let's just listen in once again to that. Things like the people have brought down the regime, raise your head up high, you're Egyptian. It's not about it. Let's bring in Eamon Rockildee once again, who's in Cairo. Eamon, you've done a sterling job throughout. Eamon, you've done a sterling job throughout with exemplary reporting from Egypt under incredibly difficult circumstances. Often you were even detained at one point. I want you to take your reporter's hat off a minute and give us a personal view of how you're feeling about everything that's happened in the last few hours.
People's, in trepidation to speak to the media, to see all of that really shattered over the past several weeks. Is truly, as a person, as an Egyptian, as somebody who lived abroad and seen what other democracies look like and countries that have a lot of freedom to enjoy, when you come back here and see that this is what Egyptians were fighting for, this is what Egyptians were sacrificing so much for, you can't help but be emotional. I've really struggled to hold back so many of my emotions over the past several weeks of reporting, but there's no doubt that tonight it's probably come through a little bit, and I think everyone who's here on the ground, journalists, activists, ordinary Egyptians, they can't help but feel a sense of community, a sense of belonging, not because they're witnessing history, but because as human beings, they're really now a part of a struggle for the most basic and fundamental human rights. And I think, as somebody who grew up here and I have seen so many of the struggles and embodied so many of the struggles that people here have tried to overcome within your own personal families, within your own communities and neighborhoods, it truly is something to be proud of. And I think I speak on behalf of so many Egyptians, from our team, from our staff, when they say that they are very, very proud tonight to be Egyptian.